Look, Iran, I'm sorry, has been asking for it for the longest time. They have been sponsoring every bad news group in the Middle East who is anti-Western civilization, places where you couldn't survive a day.
Yeah.
So please don't defend them.
No, I mean, look.
No, I'm not saying you would, but
I'm not defending
no,
Iran. I was like, I swear. I was like, what the hell did I say?
You and your
what did I say a
Queers
minute
for
ago?
Palestine T-shirt.
Yeah.
Get rid of that.
Like, look, what I hope happens in Iran is I think what everybody across the political spectrum hopes happens in Iran, which is that there's some. I hope that folks in that country rise up, and there's some, It can't happen at the hands of the U.S. I hope that they rise up, and we see something, circa pre-revolution.
In today's video, Brian Tyler Cohen absolutely destroys Bill Maher in a heated debate on Bill Maher's podcast. Bill Maher tried to downplay Trump's threat to democracy and paint today's political climate as just politics as usual. But Brian Tyler Cohen wasn't letting that slide. Armed with facts and receipts, Brian Tyler Cohen pushed back hard, calling out Bill Maher's false equivalence and exposing how dangerous Trump's rhetoric and actions really are. So let's dive in and watch how Brian Tyler Cohen shuts down Bill Maher in this heated debate on Bill Maher's podcast.
Here's the key thing about that. Rising up is so much harder than it ever used to be because of technology.
Yeah.
When we rose up against the British, they didn't have drones.
Yeah.
They didn't have cameras. You could hide. I mean, this, even up into the Soviet era, this was the case. Now, for you to rise up and somehow evade the authorities who are looking to catch dissidents, almost impossible.
Yeah. I mean, it happened, well, I don't really know any recent examples to point to where it happened, proving your point.
Well, the original revolution, not the original, but the Khomeini revolution, they called that, you know what they call the cassette revolution.
Yeah.
They
We're like six technologies past that by now.
They smuggled in the dissident's point of view on cassettes, and they played them on their fucking boom boxes.
Yeah.
That's how, and that was only 1978. That's where the technology was.
The irony is that, like, now if you want that type of information to make it feel like you have, like you're a part of a community and that you have more people there to rise up with you, the hard part is that, yeah, it's easier to get that information, but it's that much harder for the reasons that you just mentioned to actually effectuate it.
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I saw Bibi was with Trump the other day, and they were talking about transforming the whole Middle East. And again, I know Trump, look, I put up my 56 insult.
I was reading that.
You know, I got him to sign that. This is my favorite possession.
Yeah.
56 horrible things he said about me, obviously, which were in, I obviously had said something about him that, so like, no one needs to lecture me about Donald Trump, but, and well before I did the horrible dinner, which changed the world completely.
I'm curious about that, about the dinner. Do you regret any part of it? Do you regret doing it? Do you regret the
why would
before or after? I'm just curious, like, the way that all of it played out. How do you think about it? Do you think about it
the
as
people who hated me from before the dinner, the 10% who live on blue sky, just found another thing to hate me for. But their hatred looks ever stupider as time goes by, because their big fear was that, oh my God, I was going to be seduced. And of course, I went right back to tearing him a new asshole every week. If you don't watch my show, that's fine. You don't have to. I don't hate anybody or dislike anybody who doesn't watch it. But then you can't comment, because if you have been watching it, you see that I didn't change one bit. So there was no argument there except your emotions, except, he went to see The Bad Man. Like, yes, I'm thrilled. First of all, you're invited to the White House for a private dinner with the president. Really? You don't go? Well, then you're a fucking idiot, in my view, no matter who the president is. Two, he has all the power. So, like, maybe you should talk to him. And then, part two, like, okay, I had to make a report on it once people knew I went. Should I lie? No, that was not an option. Never has been for me. That's my bond with my audience.
What Bill Maher tends to gloss over is that Trump isn't just another bad dinner guest or a guy you can chalk up to standard politics. He's someone who's actively undermined democratic norms in ways no modern president has. Take January 6th. Trump didn't just rile up a rally, he spent months pushing baseless election lies that culminated in an attack on the US Capitol. Multiple courts, including Trump appointed judges, dismantled those fraud claims. Over 60 lawsuits failed. That's not politics as usual, that's a full-scale attempt to overturn an election. And on foreign policy, Trump's record is often painted as tough or transformative, but the reality is he enabled some of the most authoritarian actors in the Middle East. He tore up the Iran nuclear deal despite US intelligence confirming Iran's compliance, which only accelerated tensions. His administration also gave Netanyahu essentially a blank check, moving the embassy to Jerusalem and blessing settlement expansions. Those moves didn't transform the region in a positive sense. They entrenched conflict and weakened America's credibility as a mediator. As for the "you have to go if you're invited to the White House" argument, history shows that not every meeting is worth legitimizing. Refusing can be its own statement. When Trump hosted Viktor Orban and Rodrigo Duterte, he was normalizing strong men who dismantled checks and balances in their own countries. Giving Trump the benefit of the doubt, even symbolically, risks the same normalization of authoritarianism here at home.
So I told him the truth that, yeah, that guy who lives there is different than the one you see on TV. And I kept saying over and over in the piece, like, I'm just reporting. You make your decisions. You do what you do. I'm just saying I went down into the mine, and I'm telling you what's down there that you don't know. Or maybe you do, but like, to just be like, oh no, how it's just emotional.
No, look, if I had the opportunity, if I had the opportunity to talk to Trump, I'd be happy. I try to interview Republican officials, and the farthest right Republican that I've ever gotten on was like Adam Kinzinger, to give you an idea. And you don't really have to in this media environment because it's so bifurcated, and so you have all of these right-wing outlets. You've spoken to, people have come here and you've spoken to them. There's no need for people on opposite ends of the political spectrum to go on opposing viewpoint shows anymore because there's so many. Like, why deal with tough questions when you can just get pats on the head?
But that's what my show is every week.
Right.
My real time show is like.
But in this new media environment, there's
Right.
very few shows that do that. I mean, I reach out to Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Their offices will never respond. Yeah.
Well, you gotta reach out again. You know what? I'll call them all for you if you want. I will tell them to go on your show, and they will do it. Because that's one thing that is very different from the left and the right. That surprises me, because usually the right-wingers will go anywhere. I just had that guy on, I loved him, Wesley Hunt, congressman, African-American congressman from Texas, Trump's biggest supporter.
Yeah.
But it's so sincere.
Well, that's a
with Paul Begala. Okay, that's America. And by the way, loved it that they bonded. That's what we got to do.
What Brian Tyler Cohen is pointing out gets to the heart of today's media reality. Trump and most of his allies don't actually want tough interviews. They thrive in echo chambers where Fox, OANN, and Newsmax repeat their talking points without pushback. And that's not speculation. Trump has literally skipped every mainstream news interviews since leaving office, while giving exclusive time to sycophantic hosts like Hannity and Tucker. Even during his presidency, the White House abandoned traditional press briefings altogether, the first administration in modern history to do so, and the refusal of figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz to appear outside their bubble show how far that strategy has gone. Compare that to Democrats. Biden, Buttigieg, Warren, even AOC have all gone on Fox News at one point or another to face hostile questions. There's a reason. Democrats have to engage broadly to reach voters, while Republicans increasingly depend on disinformation ecosystems where accountability doesn't exist. Bill Maher's idea that the right will go anywhere just doesn't hold up anymore. Look at the record. When invited to debates or mainstream interviews, Trump's orbit either stonewalls or conditions appearances on pre-screened questions. And if we want to talk sincerity, Wesley Hunt may be charming, but sincerity doesn't negate the fact that he pushes Trump's baseless claims and culture war narratives. Being sincere about misinformation is still misinformation.
I mean, look, I do debates. Fox LA anchor Alex Michelson,
Good.
who I think
Yeah, I
you
love
know.
him.
He hosts debates between me and Tommy Lahren. I think we've been on like 5 times together already.
Oh, Jesus. That's like Muhammad Ali fighting a 7-year-old blind girl. Why don't you fight somebody your own size? Tommy, I mean, Jesus.
I was on
Oh.
with on Piers Morgan's show today, actually, and
Good
went
for
on
you.
with Ted Cruz's co-host
Good.
Ben Ferguson. So, look, anytime I have the opportunity to
Good.
talk to folks on the other side,
Good.
but I can also see at the same time why people on the other side of the aisle would say, like, why engage in this when it can just be easier and not, you know? And in this digital media environment, you really don't have
First
to.
of all, they should be giving me a fucking medal. All this talk about how Trump's only surrounded by ass kissers. Okay, but then when you have someone who's decidedly not MAGA go there and speak to his face things he may never hear. I mean, I said things to hear. They should be carrying me off on their shoulders for saying to him in private, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did. I reported it. He didn't object to it, and he didn't object at the time.
Well, so
Things like, why are you scaring people? You're scaring people. Why do you want to do that to your citizens? What you did with Obama's birth certificate was low. 2020 election, you didn't win that. I mean, I'm not saying this is going to change the world. I'm saying, like, your shot doing nothing, not engaging, has zero chance.
Yeah.
Mine, this guy, I'm telling you, I know this cat a lot better than I did before. He's a people person. He talks to people. You have to keep the lines open. The stupidest thing the left does, and this dinner is a perfect example of it, is having this attitude toward the right that we won't even break bread with you.
Yeah.
We are so far above you that we won't even sit down at the same table
No,
with
I mean,
you.
look,
that is their attitude, and that makes me sick too. I'm glad I break bread, and what makes them hate the left so much. They think that they're deplorables. We're deplorables, and you won't even sit down to dinner with us. Well, good luck. See how far that gets you.
Well, I mean, right now, look, we're in a position where Democrats lost the popular vote, they lost the electoral vote, and so we no longer have the luxury of excommunicating people from the
Exactly.
party who are problematic, and so that I think that's
or not talking
look,
to the other party
well, the
who
hard
has
part
all
is
the power.
Anybody who has any semblance of an ego, myself included, wants to see, like, you see Trump engage in all this bullshit, the Epstein thing, for example, whatever it may be, the pro-peace, and then he bombs Iran, says going to release the Epstein files, doesn't do it. And you have folks on the left who say, who want to be like, you fucking idiot, I told you so. Like, how did you not see this was going to come, that this was going to happen? How did you not see that when he said he's going to lower costs for people, that he doesn't give a shit about people? He's promised cheaper healthcare before he never delivered it, promised infrastructure before he never delivered it, promised a jobs boom and manufacturing renaissance. This guy always plays the same populist shtick, and he never delivers. And so how do you not get it? But I think the way that I have to check myself often now, because the goal is persuasion, right? Like, if you work in politics, the only way you win, the only way you exercise power is if you actually get in office so that you can enact your agenda. That's it. Otherwise, you're just chirping at people on Twitter. And, like, while that may be fun, not that fun if you're watching the other side enact their agenda and you have ICE agents on the street.
You're
So I
right.
had to check myself often.
What Brian Tyler Cohen is getting at really speaks to Trump's entire playbook. He thrives on making promises he never intends to keep, because the performance is the point. Take infrastructure. Trump declared Infrastructure Week, so many times it became a running joke in Washington. But after 4 years, not a single major infrastructure package was passed. It wasn't until Biden came in that we actually saw a bipartisan bill get passed, signed in law. Same thing with healthcare. Trump promised insurance for everybody back in 2017, then backed bills that the Congressional Budget Office said would have kicked over 20 million people off health insurance. Manufacturing, he campaigned on bringing jobs back, but by the end of his presidency, U.S. manufacturing had actually lost nearly 200,000 jobs, even before the pandemic. That's the opposite of the renaissance he bragged about. And then there's transparency. Trump dangled the release of the Epstein files, but nothing ever happened. He vowed to drain the swamp, then stocked his cabinet with Goldman Sachs alumni, oil lobbyists, and political cronies. That pattern big populist promises with no follow-through isn't just bad governing, it's manipulation. It's selling hope and delivering nothing. So Brian Tyler Cohen's point about persuasion matters. It's not just about dunking on Trump supporters, it's about reminding people with receipts that corruption after 4 years in power, then the performance is all you've got. And that's not leadership, it's a con. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.